Waiting to see this connect over on the IG side. You're going to do it on your side as well. Bum, 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 bum. So for those of you that are out and about, trying to do oh, there we are. Boop, going live.
You got it to work?
Yeah, it's probably thinking. It's thinking,
Oh,
it's thinking. Did you get it?
I think so. With the magic and power, we are now everywhere.
Let's go!
There we go.
Oh, wait a second.
What was that?
That was this one. It was. Did you ever watch Dave Chappelle or no?
A little bit.
A little
Some
bit.
of it's
Man,
good.
oh man,
Not
that
all
should have
though.
been like a prerequisite. Like we can't
Uh,
holler if you don't know Dave Chappelle.
I watched Dave Chappelle. I haven't watched every single one of his stand-up.
You know, that's probably one of the comedians that I would absolutely love to see in person. Like I saw Kevin Hart. If I could see Dave Chappelle on stage, yes. Like I would travel
Like,
for that. I think that would be a really good
yeah.
one for
Does he
sure.
still host tours?
Yes, he does. He does. P.S. By the way, shout out to Corinne and Pat Lockhart for tuning in. For those of you that are just hopping right in,
Hooray.
let's dive into it, shall we?
Let's talk about it.
All
Let's have
right. So, friends, a lot of companies hire one videographer, and maybe that's you. A lot of companies hire one videographer and quietly hand them an entire content department. Now that single person is responsible for strategy, for scripting, for shooting, for editing, for posting, repurposing clips, and then somehow proving it all ties into the bottom line and results. So you might call that running it lean. We call it random acts of content. So in today's episode, we're breaking down why it's important to have a funnel before filming, why having one hire is asking them to wear 5 different hats, and then we're going to dive into the right rules that will get you real results in your business. And then if you have any questions about whether or not you should staff it, should you share it, or should you source it, we'll go through all of that, give you a kind of behind the scenes look. Because here at Fortino Studios, we've built our team around specialists who own each stage of the content process. Because as we all know, making more content isn't the hardest part. It's making sure it all works together. So having said that, let's give a shout out to Brandon Fortino for being in the house. How you doing?
doing great as always. How are you doing, Stephanie?
I'm doing well. I'm happy with the fact that we've got Instagram up and running on
Yes.
both accounts.
Yes.
So
We
if
got
we're looking
people
at there,
tune in.
yeah, chime in. Shout out to Michael on my end. There's Eric Bolin who popped in too. So you guys, if you have any questions, comments, let us know where you're tuning in from. We'll put those
That's right.
comments on the screen.
I love it. It's gonna be a great conversation, I think. It's one of those things where, I think as we are so involved in the marketing space, right? We meet a lot of companies from across different type of verticals, whether they're software, service businesses, or any other type of businesses, really. And one of the things that they always trying to figure out is how do they lead a content team, right? Like this, like sometimes, yes, they could hire us as an option, right? That's what we do. But let's say they think that by just hiring one person, it's enough. And funny story, I actually, Margaritas and Mingo is coming up on tomorrow, actually on Thursday, and I've met this brand. I remember, I think they were like somewhere in the real estate kind of escrow space. And then she was telling me that, like, I was like, hey, we've been wanting to produce a lot of content, and this is kind of like something that we've been wanting to put our effort to because that's how we make our relationships with all the realtors. They're kind of like B2B. And I was like, okay, cool. So like who owns what in your team? And then they're like, oh, it's just like me right now. Like, I was like, wait, hold up. What do you mean? Like you're here at events, you know what I mean? I was like, yeah, I'm like she was technically the sales rep as well. And she was like, yeah, I'm the sales rep, but like they put me in charge to kind of make all this content. And I was like, number one, either are you getting your sales things done or are you actually know what you're doing? And she's like, honestly, not really. Well, that's why content has been put in the back burner because she only does it when she can. She doesn't really know how to edit and they didn't know what the direction is. And I think that speaks to a lot of different companies, whether you're in a B2B space or consumer space, then people that just hire one person and expect them to do all the gazillion things, right? I mean, that's why we have specific specialties. Like you can't just expect hiring one videographer to, suddenly solve your whole content problems, right? Like think about like how do you tie it into pipelines? Like somebody that's good behind the camera, they're good at behind the camera. They're good at the gear. They're good at making sure that, everything looks clean and the audio comes out smoothly. They might not be the one that comes up with the ideas. They might not be the one that is going to tie your bottom line and create your funnel. But anyways, that's just one of the stories that just pick in my head. Have you ever come across something like that, Stephanie? I feel like I can talk all day about that. I've met so many people that are telling me that. It's so insane.
I do, yes. And P.S. by the way, shout out to Lisa Busalaki from the Busalaki restaurants. As she hopped in, I was thinking about like, yeah, it's just like when you're running a restaurant. The chef can't be everywhere, right? The chef is like coming up with the menu. You need a sous chef. You need waiters. You need everyone putting all of the pieces together so that way service runs smoothly. And I remember talking to one agency and how they were servicing one of their clients. They're like, yeah, we've been creating content for them for like the past year, and we're not seeing any growth in our inquiries. We're not seeing any growth in our followers, and audience engagement is really kind of like in the And I was like, okay, well, like, do you know what your winning formats are? And she's like, what do you mean winning formats? And I said, well, do you know like of the content that you're producing, what actually is going to drive leads for you? How are you getting like heads and beds and all of that other stuff? Like what actually drives engagement? She's like, oh, well, I don't really know, because sometimes we leave it up for the content creator, like this random freelancer contractor. We leave it up to the content creator, and whenever she has time to, she'll create the content. I'm like, wait a second. So depending on her mood, she'll create whatever she can create. But that impacts your bottom line. That impacts how you put food on the table. And you're telling me like you're not questioning like how has it been a year and you don't know what's going to move the needle in your business. Like we got to talk about that for a hot second.
Right. Oh my God. That's like, how do you really put all that risk out forward, right? I'll tell you one more story. This is actually just came up this week. I remember I went to this tech event, actually not this week, last week. I went to this like networking event. I met this kind of like startup founder, and I'm not sure if they're funded or not, but I was like, yeah, we're talking about content after I told them about what we do. And they were saying like, oh, this is, we wanted to dive more into content, especially like short form and LinkedIn content. For me as a personal brand, as a founder, I wanted to grow that on LinkedIn as one of our acquisition channels, as he was talking about go to market. And so I was like, cool, like how does, how is it, who's going to be owning what, like how is it going to work? Like, tell me about it. I'll give you some pointers. And they're like, yeah, we're thinking about hiring, somebody that's probably like a college person that knows like video, or somebody that just graduated from college, from San Diego State or whatever. And I'm just you're putting your personal brand as the founder in this, like you're trying to get more investments, trying to get like more engineers right now in the hands of those people. Like, I mean, there's might be some people that are great. I'm gonna put that disclaimer out there, but I was like sharing them like, dude, like, like how this is how you show up, right? This is how you show up in front of your potential customers, your potential partners, your potential hires, your potential, really everything, right? Investors. Like, and you're gonna trust this with somebody that probably have watched one too many TikToks, right? Like, I think again, it's a different skill set, right? Maybe somebody who's good at creating content ideas, but they might not be good at tying it back, again, kind of like what you said, Stephanie, into the bottom line, right? Or maybe somebody's really good at repurposing content. Maybe they're just good at using, AI tools to cut up different clips, right? But they don't know how to tie that overall messaging piece of it. So that's what we're going to talk about today, which got me very, very excited for this topic. But shout out to people who's tuning in. Who we got?
That is Eric Bolin from Bay Area, California. So up in the Bay. I love it. All right, friends. All right. So let's talk about our first thing here when we are talking about let's talk about creating content. And I really liked how you said, like, just because someone is active on social media, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, or TikTok, doesn't necessarily mean, and the sirens are going off. Sirens are like, hold on a second, you should hear this.
Yours too?
So it doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to create content from B2C or B2B. Because there are different things that are going to work out there, and not all forms of content is going to work across your funnel. But before we dive into all of that, let's talk about like what you and I see as far as how content is getting created in B2B organizations. And for those of you that are tuning in, B2B, business, business.
Yeah, I think this article is very very interesting. I think as we're researching this topic, we were very curious about how do most companies structure their team. And honestly, according to this research here, a lot of them are kind of have it scattered. Either they don't have a dedicated team, or they kind of like the story I told you about before, they kind of lump that into something like business development or sales rep, right? And I think when you are unclear about who owns what, like a lot of people say that a lot of companies say that they want to put a lot of effort in content and actually making it a viable acquisition channel. But if you're not putting the right resources in the right seats, it'd be pretty difficult. Like as you can see here, I think about 50% of a lot of B2B organizations we see like have multiple different content teams that are kind of just not, kind of like scrambled around, whereas the other 43% I kind of have that one person, or maybe it's like just very combination variation of like one person doing a bunch of different hats. And when you start looking at it that way, like there is a lot of, sometimes some companies doesn't even know how to structure it the right way, what goes into the content creation process. And once you start understanding what actually comes across like a whole content strategy and creation of content, you'll start to see like, okay, there is somebody that's really good at this specific responsibilities here that should be only doing that. Like this is a great story and example as well. I was watching a Mr. Beast video. If you guys don't know, Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber in the world. The video is about how he structured his team. And what's really, really cool is like his content and creative strategist that comes up with the ideas of his YouTube videos are never the one behind the camera. They just never even talk to each other. The idea team solely becomes the idea team, and then the video and production team are the video and production team. His thumbnail person that designs specifically thumbnails does not even talk to the creative like ideas. Like that, those are three different functions within the content itself. So when you start realizing there is these, kind of like sub niche roles, then you can start understanding how to best fill those so that you could push your brand forward. What are your thoughts, Stephanie?
I find this to be very helpful. I mean, having worked in a lot of B2Bs, the thing is that when you have multiple content teams, what tends to happen is like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing or where that content is going to be living, or sometimes the formats don't even make any sense. Like what would look great for a LinkedIn header doesn't look great for something that's going to be on Instagram just because of the dimensions and all of the things, or even just like the design. I think one particular client I was working with and I was like, all of these look like ads. And if they all look like ads on an Instagram feed, people are just going to scroll right past it. And so I think having variety and really understanding what the content and how it's going to live and breathe on each of the different platforms is going to be very helpful. Now, if you're the type of person where like you're doing everything in one organization, the likelihood that you're going to be burnt out is going to be relatively quick. And at that point, if you're starting to feel like that itch, you should just start taking your skill set and start building your own personal brand. So between you, me, and the Wi-Fi and Brandon, send us a DM. We'll tell you how to escape that route. But on the other hand, I love it when B2Bs hire an actual agency that understand how things work. Like PR knows things as far as press releases, embargoes, things of that sort. If they're going to be doing like research and white papers, you want to have someone that knows how to do like dedicated focus groups, surveys, or if you're going to do like a webinar, a summit, like shout out to Daniel Chi, who's in here. Bum, bum, bum. Torontians don't mention the province. Toronto. I said Toronto. Sorry, friend. But Daniel Chi, if I ever had to do like a multi-virtual summit or even a hybrid summit, he would be the person that I would go to. I wouldn't go to the intern and be like, hey, I know you like mess around on Twitch. Can you
Right.
can you handle this 3-day production? And you're gonna be client facing with the keynote speaker of Qualcomm, of this and that. Like, no, like we don't play that game. So it's really interesting to see how content marketing is currently being done. Like, PS, by the way, this is actually published this year. So this isn't something that it's crazy. And I think even now with the advent of AI, people are thinking like, we don't need a content team. We could just have AI do that. But still in the back of your head, even for us, like we still have AI governance as far as like, so what tool are you using? Why would you use that? Right?
Yep.
We're not like force feeding AI platforms to our team, but it's really like if you were to do this in your mind, how would you solve that? Would you do it yourself? Would you look at past projects? Would you go to Perplexity or this or that? So it's been really interesting to kind of see that.
I'll add something about the AI thing. I think a lot of people are talking about AI, especially in the content space, right? Like, if you were to ask us like a year ago, like, oh my God, like all these Claude coming up with all these different things that, you can edit things, you can design and stuff like that. And I remember this one story. I met this other person, this other founder, and then when we were talking about the content piece, he was like, "Oh yeah, like Claude just creates, I think like 30 pieces of my content every single month, and then like, I just don't even have to look at it, and then it just goes." And I was just like, dude, like I was like, number one, I used putting some slop out there, you know what I mean? I was like, this is some slop sewage out there. I was just like, I don't want to follow you on LinkedIn, dog. You know what I mean? But I think it's something that like kind of you mentioned, like how do you integrate AI? Like if you don't actually know these core frameworks of what makes content works, and at the end of the day, a lot of people are trying to figure this out. Like, oh, what works in the algorithm? What works in the what's like the Instagram reel algorithm talking about right now? But more in reality, like this is just like a human being on the other side, right? You're trying to catch their attention because if you're just creating AI content, I don't think AI have a real time pulse on what is going on, that people likes, what people don't like. And when you start thinking it that way and start having these key frameworks of how do you structure your content, that's when you could start thinking about how to integrate AI into that. But you shouldn't make AI be the leading force of your strategy, because then uh, you'll get skewed to generalize, because AI is trained on the average and the things that how you would be able to, if you asked it like what is the best taco shop in Claremont Mesa, is gonna like find the average of what everything is on the internet and give that to you. So when you're asking for a strategy, I'll give you the average strategy. That's why a lot of, I'm not gonna call it out there, but all those people using like LinkedIn like posts out there, now you can have the this is AI
This
slop.
is AI
I think
slap.
we should have that on every platform. What's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Because we don't need another slop. A lot of people want to hear more true opinions and things that you actually care
Personal
about.
experiences. Yeah, it's
I
so
rest my
funny
case on
because even with
that.
that AI slop feature, I was curious. I was like, do you, as a user on LinkedIn, am I going to get some type of report that says like this is the feedback that you're currently getting? Because I think that's what's really important is at the end of the day, you want to understand what are your winning formats, what's
Hmm.
really resonating with people, what's getting people to comment on your stuff. And I found this really interesting in the Content Marketing Institute, where they said like how B2B marketers currently rate their content strategy. And a big proportion of it is really like moderately effective. Like, look, man, we're doing the best that we can with the resources that we have. And sadly,
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of resources. I mean, if you've been following as far as marketing goes, teams that are getting laid off, or I feel like even now the messaging now is like replace your team with AI. Like that has what's the right saying? It's ruffled a lot of feathers with people where they're just like, well, I don't want
Oh
to
yeah.
support a company that doesn't do that anymore. I find that very interesting in that sense. Cool. All right. So there was another one in here that you were asking me about, or this one right here. Why B2B content strategies aren't as effective as they should be. Let's talk about that.
Yes. Yeah, I think if I could see that correctly, I think the number one reason there is because of a lot of times it's lack of resource, right? Where a lot of companies want to make content work, and they know the power of being able to use the power of the algorithm to be able to showcase and get more known out there. But it's very interesting to see that stat where it's like the number one thing as actually lack of clear goals, is because when you kind of don't understand where does content fit in your bigger like sales motion and your bigger like sales cycle, then that's where it gets kind of confusing, right? Why are we doing this content? And that's why we always kind of look into it from a lens of a funnel, like a content funnel, which we'll show you in a second how to build the actual funnel. But really understanding like how does this content supposed to act, and where is it supposed to support your growth as a company, right? Is this like a top of funnel content where it would just like get people to get to know about you? And now that there's when they don't know you, now they see this content, they kind of know that you guys exist. Or is it more of like a middle funnel content, or just kind of build your trust in the industry? Or is it even a bottom funnel content, whereas like a bottom funnel means it's created so that it can spark conversation, right? Which kind of leads into the second part of this graph over here. I have it open over here too. Is not tied into customer journey. So again, it kind of like goes hand in hand with like, okay, what is the goal that we're trying to achieve, but also like where does this fit in? Like about 42 and 39% of companies that are being surveyed said that they feel like that's not as effective because of that. And quite frankly, a lot of people don't know what kind of data to track. It's not data driven. So that could be another live stream topic in the future where we talk about what kind of data do we track, right? How do we know that people are actually not only watching, but engaging, but actually thinking about potentially like working with that company or becoming a client. So it's very interesting because a lot of these surveys, and there's other stuff too, like ineffective audience research, meaning they don't really know the
they're talking
audience.
to.
Yeah, they don't know who they're talking to. They don't have unrealistic expectations. But I think overall, if we can bucket this, it's like there's a lack of educations, especially in the B2B content space, of how to actually run this thing. I mean, if you think about it, content doesn't it's not like a proper channel since until very recently, where it's like cool to use YouTube as a people getting a lot of leads from there, LinkedIn content, or even like Instagram content, right? So the lack of education, there's a huge part of it missing there for a lot of B2B companies like this. So very interesting, and that's something that hopefully with each of these live streams we try to uncover to you guys.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was telling you yesterday about like how I was going on this rant.
Yeah.
And it was like, look, listen, you have a hard drive full of footage and it's collecting digital dust. Like you might call it a content library. I call it expensive ass storage, because what good is all of that footage if nobody knows what to do with it? Like sales doesn't even know that it exists. Marketing posts a few clips, right? And then 6 months later, your CMO is like, hey, we need to shoot more video. And you're like, hold up. You're like, wait a second. The thing is that the problem isn't production, right? It's really what happens before production. So to your point, like someone should be answering that question of like, what does your audience need to hear? What does sales need help explaining? Where will the content live? How often will you be pushing it out there? How will it get distributed? And I think a lot of the sometimes when clients come to us with they're like, we have this campaign, I'm like, is it really a campaign or is it just like a flash in the pan? So having said that, let's go into our other topic here that we wanted to share, which is basically the funnel of content.
I love this topic. By the way, is there any comments going on right now? I think there'd be I've seen people popping up on Instagram. If you guys are on a lot of these platforms, drop a comment. I want to hear about what questions do you guys have. We're here to answer your questions too. So it's a conversation. Feel free to ask anything. And yeah, who's this? I think I'm gonna butcher pronouncing your name, but
Mr. Adino.
yeah, Mr. Adino. I like it when you start talking about data and content. Yeah, 100%. So this is a typical content funnel is something that we look into with every client that we work with. So the funnel, the job of this funnel is to identify what kind of content on a larger scale. This is like even like going on a very high level, 10,000 foot view, and how does it interact with one another, right? If you think about it, what is the purpose of content itself? The purpose of content itself is to build trust, right? And how do you build trust with someone, right? Like if Stephanie and I are just talking to you for about 30 seconds, do you think you would be able to want to buy like a $3,000 product or a $5,000 product? I don't know. For a 30-second video, I mean, probably not, right? So I think this is where getting clarity on the goals becomes very important. Is like, is that, how does that waterfall of content kind of come down to until those brings those people and those customers that want to work with you? So these are like looking at the top, middle, and bottom funnel content. This is like an example for actually probably one of our clients here is implementing this. Is on the top of funnel, the goal a lot of the times is just to get a lot of people to know about you. Most of us here that are watching this, or you're watching the replay of this, probably could be better off when more people know about them, right? Even for us, right? That's why we're doing these live stream, right? The more people that know about you, the more people that know about your service, the more people know about what you can help them with, then that's a potential lead for you. So that's where a content format like a short form video would probably fit into your whole journey. Because short form video, again, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 90 seconds, it's typically very easily digestible and it can get to a lot of people as fast as possible. Like Meta, YouTube Shorts, even now LinkedIn videos have created their algorithms to be able to support that growth. So when you're posting something, they'll right away will try to find the best audience for it. And your job is just to make the videos as interesting as possible so people stop the scroll and then they would want to watch a video. Now somebody knows about you, right? But will they actually buy from you on a level where, like, if you're selling high ticket or very high ticket, right? Probably not right away. Unless you're selling something that is very cheap, that is impulsive, then it probably could work with the top of funnel. You could just have a short form video and drive sales. But depending on what you sell, you might want to add other layers into your whole content strategy. That's where a lot of middle of funnel content comes in. This is where a long form video, maybe even a live stream like this, is where you get to spend an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half, depending on what kind of videos you're creating. The more hours spent, the more minutes spent with you and your prospective customers, you'll be able to build more trust with them. And then hopefully get them to trust you more, that they want to get on a call with you. Then the bottom funnel piece of it, these are things that, again, how do you convert a lot of these audience into actual booked calls, right? And you can do these through things like a live workshop, whether it's online or in person, for example. When you start structuring your content funnel in this, again, this is a 10,000 foot view looking at a whole, motion of the sale. Now you'll be able to know, okay, what roles of this content is in my journey, basically, in my customer journey. Let's see, what is this? There's a comment here. It's nice because you can repurpose these lives into short form too.
Oh yeah,
100%.
that's Poly Innovator. A quick shout out to him because I'm going to see you at Vid Summit. So PS, by the way, if you guys are headed to Vid Summit, I would love to see you there. But yes, Poly Innovator is definitely a part of the fam. He is so good at repurposing content. He's actually the one that put me on Obsidian. So I used to be on Rome Research. And so he was like, psst, Stephanie, you need to check out Obsidian. He's so funny. He's like, thank you. I was going to ask if you are. Of course you knew I'm going to be there. But back to Brandon's point, as far as the lining up content for the funnels, one thing that I'll even add to is, so to Poly Innovator's point, even this live stream, we're going to chop it up and put it into repurposing the clips, but it doesn't stop there, because now on most platforms, whether it's going to be YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, if you have that feature, you could create a playlist. And so having a playlist that leads people to, like, here's a clip that walks you through the funnel, and then you have your call to action. Because in most cases, when we're working with B2B, it's like sell, sell, sell. You're like, stop trying to sell people. Like, some people in their decision-making process needs to research, hear from another third party to validate who you are. Maybe they want to see a demo. Maybe they just even want to see like how you explain things or get a feel for what it's like to actually work with you. Let's see here.
Right.
Go ahead.
I'll also add, so this funnel, for example, we've done it for one of our clients, Andrew. You probably remember Andrew. Stephanie, Andrew's awesome. When you start having a structured funnel like this, now you can start really figuring out what kind of KPIs to work with each side of the funnel, right? So for top of funnel, for somebody like, so he sells a coaching program or an educational program. On the top of the funnel side, we have all the shorts. We're measuring the views and the impressions that we get on all those platforms. Because the more people that we get to show his products to, his face to, then he'll be able to get more known for his products. And that leads into his long form videos on YouTube. So he does post once every week, sometimes even twice a week for long form videos on YouTube. And again, there's obviously you're gonna wanna make sure the videos are optimized and all of that stuff. And those becomes his warming up. So people get to know him a little bit more, talking about specific real estate subjects and topics, and which leads then into his bottom of funnel, which is his webinar and challenges. So when you start thinking about it in a funnel format, you'll start to understand there's probably different KPIs that you wanted to target within each of these funnels, depending on your goals, what you sell, what your offer is, and that all kind of contributes into that. Okay, you have a clear goal now. Now you can have start tracking specific numbers and start improving that month over month or quarter over quarter. And that's kind of how you, number one, you can start better having better clarity on your content, but actually not just random posting all around and actually know what to improve on.
I call it random acts of content. No drive-by content, please. P.S. Shout out to Julio Gonzalez, who is asking a really great question. I feel like you have an answer for this, Brandon. His question is, could AI help sift through all that footage and organize it to help create content? What say you?
I'd say so AI sift through all that footage. So I'm assuming you mean like a long form footage or some sort of like I think it depends. It's a very like case by case basis in here. So if you have like a long format content, like a YouTube video or live stream like this, there are AI tools that be able to help find, or potentially find like some clips for you to be able to clip. So if you're a one person operation, then that would be helpful for you. Um, can it sift through, let's say if you are out on a shoot day and you have a bunch of footage and it goes through all of those footage, I'll have to watch the video, find like the nice, dramatic, emotional parts of it. Probably not. I think AI is not there yet where it could do that. I'd say the furthest that I've seen it work that is pretty decent is probably like helping with repurposing things. And kind of that's where I think AI could help a lot, where you can turn your long form videos, your shorts into written posts, blog posts, all of that stuff. But to actually create the creative direction, I think I find it's very generic using AI. What are your thoughts, Stephanie, on
I
that?
agree completely. I mean, I know a lot of people use AI platforms to help them repurpose content. Like I even do that with Descript, right? But I still have me in the process because I know during a live stream when people had questions, right? So maybe the AI might not think that Julio's question was worthy enough, and I'm like, no, this is actually a question, and so I still have to pop in there every now and then and be like, this is really what I want to do. And I think even just because as creatives we're so close to our work and there's a certain way that we want things to look like, how sometimes these AI tools chop it up, I'm like, ugh. That don't look right. I mean, there's a reason why I use Ecamm, right? Because Ecamm lets me do all these different things, and so sometimes these platforms for clipping, I'm just like, not really into that one.
Yeah, I'd say like a good like litmus test for that, like Julio, is like, does this decision or action require any sort of like strategic thinking or some sort of like taste involved in it? Like if you're trying to outsource, like, okay, what strategically should I like cut out here? Then that's like, I don't think AI is really good at that yet. I think AI is really good when things you have a clear direction of what you'd want out of it. So yeah, I think AI have no flavor, you know what I
Has no
mean?
swag. It was really
There's no
interesting.
swag.
You and I had met up with Steven over the
Yep.
weekend, one of my really good friends I've known ever since, and
Shout out.
I was asking him, hey, like my daughter is super creative. How do I support that creativity? And he's like, you need to take her to museums. And I was like, tell me more. And he's like, think about it. You have these curators that are taking different things and they're curating it for an exhibit so someone actually has an experience. That requires a lot of taste. And in a world now where you have AI that's just creating all of this content slop, you need someone that's able to discern what looks good. What is the emotion that I'm getting out of this? And so if you're going to leverage AI, use it as a tool, but definitely don't make it your final destination, your decision maker for all of the different things.
100%.
Cool.
100%.
Let's start diving into how people are building their teams, their content teams,
Let's do
and
it.
all that jazz. So walk me through this. What was your thinking when you put this together?
This is like most people's, most companies' content team. One person in the middle, and they do all things: strategy, the actual capturing of the footage, the actual editing of it, the posting, creating captions of it, script writing of it. They do everything, right? And it's just like five different functions, ideally, that we want to have people do. Kind of go back to my first example. If you're just tuning in, I had this example where I met this kind of like a escrow company, or somebody that is in the real estate space through Margaritas and Mingle. Shout out, we're having an event tomorrow, and they have one person just doing everything. And when you have one person doing every single thing when it comes to content, I would say like you can't expect any really decent results coming out of it, because when you are stretched out, then let's say that person is solely doing the content stuff. They're not like a part-time sales rep that you have, right? Then you have so many things to juggle. Like as all those different roles, when it comes to strategist, videographer, they have different specialties that you need. So let's break that down, right? What are each of those positioned to? You have typically your creative strategist, your content strategist. Their sole role is to see, number one, the data of what's working, what's not working, understand your brand to make sure that they can, make sure to create content that is in your language, in your voice, in your colors, all those, to make sure that everything's on brand. Come up with those content ideas by evaluating what works, what doesn't work, whether it's through past data or through like further inspiration. Maybe they're seeing what trends is going on, or what is the customer or like the audience sentiment is right now. Like we're seeing like a couple months ago, people are super into the ranking type of content, but now like we're kind of moving into this more of like very personal, authentic, talking in front of the phone kind of content. So people change, right? People change their behaviors. So that's the primary role of the strategist, really, is to focus on creating what topics to talk about, what kind of content to talk about, and in what format. Because when they start to understand, when you start finding those winning formats, it's probably going to come from the strategist. Now, you have the videographer, which is, everybody uses this term very, very loosely. Everybody like thinks, oh yeah, he's just a videographer, right? There's a meme in the creative space, like, oh yeah, that person's a videographer, right? And really, what is the role of this person? A lot of the times, the role of this person is to understand how to make you look really good in front of the camera. That's it. Like, make you really good, understand how to position the lighting, how to position your face, your cameras, your audio, to make sure that you sound clean, you look clean, and that it's not going to be, blurry. It's not going to be like tilted, right? Their job is a very technician role, is to make sure that they understand the gear, all the newest things that are happening, and how to best portray that in your content. Then typically it comes to the script writer, right? The script writer is a whole different set of role, where your job is to take the idea and really create it in an interesting way. A lot of the time, this role needs to understand your voice, but also needs to know how to structure a hook, how to embed curiosity loops if you are creating both short form or long form content, right? Knowing the how to write content in a specific format that works. You know what I mean? So having a scriptwriter that is really good, meaning that they can speak in your language and they can captivate the audience. It's almost like I don't know why the image that came into my head is like, from the movie The Odyssey, like when they have the siren,
Yeah.
the sirens singing. I feel like when you have a really good scriptwriter, you really know, you really engage in that video. You don't feel like you're watching a video. You feel like you're just immersed in that world because the writing is so well done. Then you have the editor. This is like, I would say, depending on who you are, trying to be an editor is such a technical role. Like, this takes years to master. I know right now we have like CapCut, we have all these AI tools that might be able to help with it. But I'd say a really good editor doesn't just know how to cut and throw in, a Drake song in your video, right? That's not what makes a good editor. If you ask Hayden Hiller-Smith, which is like the editor of Logan Paul and a lot of these big creators, like, really the role of the editor is to shape the story. Think about it, they're kind of like the shapeshifter of the story, because what the videographer has captured and what the scriptwriter and the strategists have worked together to create the content, now the editor gets to make it to life. Maybe when you're on shoot day, it doesn't turn out the way that you thought about it. Maybe the tonality is a little bit off. Maybe they have to make it a little bit funny. They have to add this. They're kind of like I'd say like, the chef of the content. They want to make sure that like this person, like this content is going to be as good as possible. And then last but not least, you have somebody on the social media coordinator side that will be, oh, look, why are you on there?
Oh, I moved myself.
Cool.
Wait, so I'm at the social media coordinator? Okay, there I am.
Yeah, that's cool. You pop them in there. Then you have that role when the content is done, now thinking about how do you distribute it, right? Like this person typically communicates with maybe thumbnail designers, right, to make sure the thumbnails are good. They're kind of like deep in the trenches to make sure that they pull reports every week or every month for the content itself to make sure that you have enough data for the strategists to come up with better content. Maybe this person would be able to also repurpose these content into other forms of content, whether it's blog or any other stuff, right? So when you start having these roles just done in one person, how do you expect that one person to do it well? That's the whole point of this piece. What is this person? This 26 Gonzo says, shape the story and work with the script to bring the emotion. Exactly. If you're a really good editor, you'll know how to turn the story and make it interesting. I think you know when to cut things. You know like how to deal with pacing. You know how to kind of like create it interesting. With sometimes a lot of the times to what things to cut out to make things interesting. You don't have to have like all of the every single thing that they talked about. So a lot of different roles that if you only have one person needs to understand.
And PS, by the way, shout out to the content creators, the solo content creators, because yes, we are used to doing all of these different things. Like I'm so used to like, what am I going to talk about this week? and all of that other stuff. And I think as a full-time content creator, it's easy, but eventually down the line, you want to have a team to help you support and do all of these different things. Because for me as a content creator, at the end of the day, I want clients, right? I need to be closing deals. I need to be having client meetings and all of that other stuff. And so if I can outsource this to other folks, then I would absolutely love that. But yeah, as you were talking through this, I was just like, oh, let me just pop around here a little bit.
Which kind of like I think brings to the next point is like, how do you build the team,
Yeah.
right? Who should hire first? Unless you just got big funding from a lot of people, and then you're a big company and you want to hire everything at once. Most of the times, that's not what happened. Like, who should you hire first, second, third, fourth, all of that stuff? This is like what I would say our ideal content team structure. There's you on there. You work alongside the strategist, creative strategist, content strategist. There's different roles that you can name this person. But you work very closely with them to show what is the goal of the business, what is the goal of the channel that you're trying to build. Is it on YouTube? Is it on LinkedIn? Is it going to be YouTube and LinkedIn? Is it going to be like Instagram and YouTube? Whatever that looks like, you work with the strategist, and then the strategist then would work with a lot of times the script writer to kind of create the content ideas. Then after that, then they will send that brief in the form of a brief to the videographer to make sure they shoot with you. And then once the videographer is done, you create your editors, you give it to your editors to make sure that your editors know exactly what needs to be done, and your social media coordinator. Now, in my opinion, the right way to hire this is, let's say, if you don't have, obviously you can hire everyone at once, you are a lot of the times the strategist. Like you're the creator, you are the strategist, right? You wanted to hold a lot of that kind of create a direction yourself, because you know your brand best, right? Whether you are a company or you are a creator yourself, like you know your brand best. So you are probably going to be the strategist. You don't want to outsource this one first. So when you are with the strategy, then okay, who do you hire next? In my opinion, the first thing, you can hire always an editor first. An editor is typically somebody that would be able to take a lot of your workload off, so that you can focus more on reevaluating what kind of content formats work better for you, how to maybe create better hooks for the next ones. Really, you need to understand the data and understand what's working. And your editor will help you execute that project first and foremost. Then I would say like the second probably hire that I would kind of create is the videographer, right? This is not somebody that you need to hire full time. Maybe you can hire this part time or maybe on a contract basis, because if you do content creation kind of like what we do, which is batching content, which is what we recommend, you only meet with them like once a quarter, maybe once every 6 weeks. That way you be able to get all of your content done, if as long as it's planned correctly, in one sitting. Then you can start to expand, potentially having a social media coordinator, and last but not least, maybe a script writer and then a strategist, in that order. So that's, again, that's kind of like the flow that I always recommend having like companies do if they wanted to build out their internal in-house. Again, this is why companies like us exist. What we do is like basically this, but instead of hiring all of those, we become your strategist and all in-house content team. But besides the point, if you wanted to create this structure, now everybody have clear expectations, clear roles, and they have each clear KPIs on what they need to do to make sure that everyone supports that same goal. So I know I talked a lot. I'm curious what questions people have in the comments. I'm
Drop it
curious
in.
here.
PS, by the way, if you guys are just tuning in, let us know where you're tuning in from. We're obviously talking about building your own content team, especially in B2B organizations, because expecting one person to wear multiple hats, that's going to be a very, very heavy hat. And not only that, though, if you're putting all of your eggs in one basket and one person, the likelihood that they're going to get burnt out is going to be very quick. And then at some point, you're going to have gaps in your whole entire marketing campaigns and all of those efforts. And so what we're talking about here is really building out your content team. And I really liked, Brandon, how you broke out as far as who should your first hire be? What would your second hire be? And it was funny because I think you said that your first hire after the strategist would be the editor, is what you were saying?
No, a lot of the times you are the strategist because you want to keep that as close as possible. You know your brand best. I think you are the strategist in the beginning. Strategist should be the last thing that you outsource, I would say. Unless in terms of like building an internal team, right? First hire, I would say an editor to help you remove a lot of the technical stuff because it takes a long time to learn how to edit. Second would be the videographer. Third would be social media coordinator, and then script writer, and then strategist last. So, a lot of the times, when you're working with any type of companies, whether it's like an agency that if you're considering working with them, you should work closely with them when it comes to the strategy piece of it, right? Like, because they want to understand your goals, and a lot of times you know best about how what kind of customers you're working with, what kind of offers you guys have, what's been working, what's not been working. So all of those stuff are I would say it's like one of the last things to hire in-house.
Very cool. And so whether you have a team in-house, there's also an advantage to having a team, an agency partner that you work with. And the reason why I say that is because sometimes even though you already have a videographer in-house, this was my last B2B, they had a videographer in-house, but he only knew how to edit for testimonials. Did not know how to edit as far as clips, short form videos, or even just like on Instagram, right? So I love it when people have webinars, but the second they say to me like, oh yeah, and we just want to like repurpose that, just put the whole webinar on YouTube. I'm like, no, like have a dedicated YouTube channel just for your webinar, but know that how YouTube functions is going to be very different. Like you should have a very strong team working on shorts and long form content over there. And obviously if you could do some live streaming, I love the way that Ecamm does it, because if they're still doing it, it's like every Friday they would show you, let's walk through putting together your demos as far as getting your first live stream production put together, and you could get your questions answered in real time. Those are a couple of my favorite things.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we do at Fortino Studios is like we become a partner in your content department, right? When you're looking for a partner, and this is not whether it's us or anybody else, one thing that you wanted to make sure that you know is what is their ability to understand the platforms and what's working right now. That's kind of the biggest leverage that you can get by working with a partner instead of building your own internal team. I didn't even mention like there's a lot of training involved. There's a lot of things, onboarding things, and when it comes to hiring a lot of these roles, because they are creative roles, might be a little bit different than your usual roles that you hire. One of the benefits of working with a partner is getting that leverage when it comes to understanding, okay, this, you become you focus on what works for the business. And when you can communicate that to a partner that understands and listens and be able to create your strategy based on what's already working and, whatever your goals is. And if that partner, even better, can walk you through that whole process, that's what I would look for at least in a partner when it comes to building your content team. So if you don't have enough budget to hire a full-on content team, that's some of the things that I would look forward to in an agency partner, in a content partner on that side.
So what you're saying is that what are you looking for specifically in a content partner?
I would look for their expertise in that specific domain of content. Number two is being able to be a really good listener so that you could the partner could walk you through that whole process so they can understand how to build the best funnel for you or whatever your goal is when it comes to launching your content campaigns.
I see. So aligning the purpose of the videos with an actual campaign or having purpose behind it.
100%.
Agree.
Yeah.
Love it. I also liked how when you were talking about having a videographer in the sense that they don't have to be full time. And I think that's really important too. So you and I, we speak at a lot of different conferences, and every now and then, instead of me having to book a flight for a videographer, I would just say, like, who do you know that's local? And as a speaker on stage, I'll usually reach out to the event organizer and I'll say, like, you've been doing this. You've had this conference more than once here in San Diego, San Francisco, or even Texas. Who do you recommend? And then hiring that videographer there. But as long as you still have that strategist that says, here's the creative brief. This is the look and the feel that we're going for. So I need you to actually take these shots. One thing that I actually want in a videographer too, as a speaker, I'm just saying this because a lot of the B2B orgs, you might have your C-level executives speaking at conferences and whatnot. You want a videographer who isn't going to be shy, get up on stage, get up and maneuver around the audience, because at the end of the day, you want to get like the money shots for your C-level executives, whether it's putting together their speaker sheets, their sizzle reels, and all of that other stuff. So a videographer isn't, someone on your team that has a smartphone and knows how to take video, right? A
100%.
videographer is working together with the editor and the strategist to say, like, no, these are the shots that I'm going to get, and this is the gear that I'm going to need to do it. Because obviously you don't want to be in front of the audience and blocking their view when you're speaking on stage, but still you want to have different shots of you. I'm just going to bring this up. What was that?
100%.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, like one of my favorite shots to get for our clients is when you're on stage, and if you want like that money shot where everyone holds up their phone and they're taking a photo, like literally you need to have a slide that says take a picture of this. I'll go to the videographer and I'm like, when I say take a picture of this, I want you to take a photo of everyone holding up their phones. Or, I might even like have someone in the audience and be like, hey, when I'm done with my talk, hey team, you're in the front row. When I'm done with my talk, or when Brandon's done with his talk, I want you to all stand up and start clapping, because what does that create? That creates a standing ovation. Videographer, you're on point. You're getting that shot, right? That's going to be really important when the conference is going to be creating like their sizzle reel for the next year's conference event. We did that for Roberto Blake. Roberto Blake's a really good friend of mine, and I was just like, okay, so what do you need? What kind of content do you need for your next? He's like, I want people engaged and da-da-da. And so I would look at the videographer as an MC and I'd be like, hey, that person's writing this down, get that shot. Or even when you had your trades workshop, I was like, hey, we need that shot right there, because that's going to help us out. So again, as a strategist, it's not just in that moment, but in the future, how can I reallocate and repurpose these basically sales enablement assets in different arenas? That's my
Exactly. Yeah. I think it just brings back our point, right? Like how each of these roles have different specialties and different, unique traits that they need to be a really great person at that role, right? A lot of people think like one person can handle it all when it comes to content, but it's very different. Just because somebody can pull up a phone and make some TikToks using trendy sound doesn't mean that they would be a really good strategist for your content. When you start thinking about it these are a lot of times, if you're a founder-led brand, these are going to be your face, right? So these are going to be what you stand for. And if you are picking the wrong person in the wrong seat for that, like that is your credibility and your reputation at risk, right? So that's the risk. I think a lot of people don't think about that. Like when you're hiring an intern to handle your whole content strategy, it's like, what's going on? Like that's your whole company's reputation is
on the
being
line.
blast right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
on the line.
it's on the line. And another thing to be mindful of is that as you're creating this content, having a content library is more than just saving it on a Google Drive or Dropbox or whatever. It's actually organizing that content. So by name of the event, what kind of content is this? So that way when you need to search for it, it'll be very easy for you to handle that. Cool.
That could be our topic for next week.
Organizing
But all
content.
about- I think that's a huge one too. Like that could be a whole conversation just talking about, once you kind of even have these content, like how do you make sure you have it that you can always pull back from it when you need like extra edits and stuff like that. Because if everything is dumped in a big dump Google Drive folder and then name IMG00 whatever, like you're screwed. You're cooked basically. You know what I mean? It's like that your editor would hate their life.
It's going to be very costly, right? Because
Yeah.
when you have an editor, I mean, I've had that too sometimes, even with clients, and they're like, "Oh, it's in SmugMug," and I'm like, "Which folder? What year? What am I looking for specifically?" You know, it's like, I want you to make a reel about this, and it's like, what's the copy? Like, I can't just make something out of thin air because I need to know what your vision is going to be. And if you tell me where the Legos are, what color Legos you want, right? Then
Yeah.
I could get creative with it. But if I need to go and find the Legos, I don't know if it's in the basement or in the attic or in the garage, wherever, it's going to take a longer time in order for me to give you that deliverable. And it's going to be very costly in the end.
100%. I think even speaking with the creative person, you need to be able to understand how to give feedback and give those directions. But that's a future topic.
Feedback is a whole freaking show in and of that self, man. I worked with Claude as far as like, how do you give constructive feedback to your content partner, right? So yeah, we'll
We'll have a whole conversation on
we'll
that.
have another one for that. P.S. By the way, shout out to Coach Brian Buck for hopping in. It's been a minute, friend. I haven't seen you for a while, but if you guys are just tuning in, if you have any questions, feel free to chime in, drop them in the comments. Obviously, we're live on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all the things. And so we're happy to have you here. If you're watching the replay, that's all good. If you still have any questions, by all means, slide into the DMs. Let us know if you have any questions, or if you're just like, hey, I'm planning my content team for 2027. What should my first hire be? You know, what should I do in phase one? Like a big thing for me, I think even for us, is really just, let's do a content audit first and figure out, what do you currently have? How is it organized? How is it structured? What are the gaps? Tell me about your events for 2027, and let's start mapping out what type of content you should be creating, not just at the event, not just a recap, but like leading up to it. So how do we create that buzz for people to come out and do all the things? Having said that, is there anything else that you'd like to add before we tease tomorrow's event?
I think that's we hit all the points there. I'm super passionate about this topic, but what Stephanie was saying, if you want us to take a look and audit what's going on with your content, where we see opportunities, just send us a message, either Stephanie or me on LinkedIn or on Instagram, wherever you're watching from. If you're watching from a messenger pigeon, just send back a messenger pigeon as well. So we'll be happy to take a look at what your operations is.
Did you say messenger pigeon because we've been watching Narcos? And that was like the last thing you thought of?
I was talking about a messenger pigeon yesterday with some of my friends. We were talking about, like, if you were to not have a phone for a whole like month or 2 months, how do you communicate with your family and stuff like that? If you're traveling and stuff, it's messenger pigeons.
Messenger pigeon. Mail still exists.
Mail, yeah.
Even like archaic. Coach Brian says, I use semaphore flags. Oh man, you guys are going like way back in the day. That's like the like, you got to be on a hill for someone to like see your flags. All right, tell them about margaritas and mingles, sir.
Yeah, if you're in Southern California, especially in San Diego, you're an entrepreneur, you're a founder of any size, or wanting to be one, we are having our monthly margaritas and mingles it's happening tomorrow. If you can make it, that's all good. It's going to happen every last Thursday of the month at Hideaway Pacific Beach. So it's going to be right next to the ocean. Really awesome venue. We've been doing it for the past 2 years. It's going to happen at 5 p.m. All I ask is just make sure you RSVP on Eventbrite. And that way we know how many margaritas they need to be ready for people to be there. So, so hopefully we can see you all there. That way it's not just going to be digital. We'll see you in person too.
Love it. All right, crew. So we go live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. talking about content, talking about video and all the things. So if there's something that you want us to cover off on, we're more than happy to walk you through our process, how we think, how we service our clients, and give you even a hot seat. If you're just like, hey, I want you to actually audit my stuff, slide into the DMs, send us a message, and we'll be more than happy to take a look at it and have you actually join us on the show. Cool?
Let's do it. That'll be fun.
All right, friends. So thank you so much. And we will see you hopefully tomorrow at